On this episode of Still Loading...
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Still Loading. As usual, I'm your host, Josh Koval, and we are continuing with the Summer of PS2 episodes. That is right, we are moving right along. This week's episode, we are going to jump into the game Devil May Cry, which is fitting since the last episode was Okami, and it's another Hideki Kamiya game. But with me to talk Devil May Cry is a friend of mine, Cody. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited. This is my podcast debut. You're my first. Be gentle.
Just breaking that podcast cherry. Mm-hmm. So, as I've been talking with every guest on this for the summer of PS2, what is your earliest PlayStation 2 memory? Or do you remember when you got a PS2?
Yeah, I definitely remember when I got it. Well, I remember the events of getting it. I don't know if I could give you the exact year.
That's fine.
I don't
even remember a specific year I got my N64.
Mm-hmm. I definitely didn't get it at launch. I probably got it maybe in like 2002, 2003. I remember going over to my friend's house. I was in 34th grade, and he had Dragon Ball Z Budokai.
That's a great game. That's going to be... Actually, I need to check my list. Is that before or after? That's actually later.
Yeah. So, great game, and being a child in the golden days of Toonami, seeing that game was mind-blowing, and I thought, I have to own this. And I remember I had, leftover birthday money, Christmas money, or whatever. And I was dead set on buying a PS2. And I got it probably a few weeks after going to my friend's house. And I just remember there being a huge blizzard. So maybe somebody can go back and look into a huge blizzard in 2002, 2003.
I was going to say the blizzard in 96, but that wasn't when it came out.
Yeah. Definitely not that. Because I remember being snowed in all weekend and playing that game. And I remember even... the Frieza boss fight my mom helped me beat, which is hilarious.
That's kind of awesome.
Because she doesn't play video games ever. So I think that's maybe the one time she ever played a game.
I tried to get my mom to play video games, and I had her try Donkey Kong 64, and she could not understand the controls. Mm-hmm. And as video games went along, it was harder and harder for her to really understand. And I mean, she didn't really play games growing up either, but I just find it funny, to hear, oh, my parents helped me beat that. I'm like, my dad played Medal of Honor, and that was about it. that was the only, he liked World War II games specifically, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, it's even weirder for me to think about, because I kid you not, that is the one and only time my mom has ever played a video game around me.
Really?
I don't know if maybe she just thought, at the time, maybe she was kind of just blown away by how it looked. Mm-hmm. Maybe she was getting a kick out of how excited I was. But I remember I kept trying to beat Frieza, and Frieza's an asshole.
He is.
And so then I don't remember if she offered or if I asked her, but she beat it. And that's definitely my earliest PS2 memory, because that was really the first weekend I had it, and I just binged that game.
Because, like I said, it's going to be an upcoming episode for the summer of PS2, mm-hmm. but I actually was replaying a little bit of Budokai, and it still looks good.
Yeah.
You can definitely see the datedness of some of the graphics because of the PS2, but it doesn't look aesthetically bad. It holds up surprisingly well.
I think anime games, that tends to be the case, because as long as you get it to look somewhat like the anime,
same thing with
tends to hold up better.
Even with games like Sly Cooper. Mm-hmm. Sly Cooper has
maybe even just
the cell shaded cartoon graphics. But so we're talking Devil May Cry.
Yeah, back to that.
So Devil May Cry, Devil May Cry came out on August 23rd, 2001 in Japan, and October 16th, 2001 in North America. It was developed by Capcom, and the director, like we mentioned before, is Hideki Kamiya. Mm-hmm. So this game was super interesting. It was super groundbreaking at the time it came out, because there hadn't been a 3D game like this at all, at least to my knowledge. At least
definitely not one as big.
At least with this aesthetic and this style. Mm-hmm. It was originally going to be a Resident Evil game, and then when they added all these different mechanics in, I forget, Shinji Mikami, I think, is the Resident Evil guy. He did not like the direction it was going. He didn't feel it was Resident Evil-ish, so they just switched focus, and it turned into Devil May Cry. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much how the game was born. It was the main character's name is Dante, named after, the author of the Divine Comedy, Dante. And the game is very, very loosely based around that. Is Mundus a character in the Divine Comedy? That's the villain of the game.
He is Satan. And fun fact that when I did some research too, I didn't want to come in here just without looking into a little bit of the backstory. But Trish, blew my mind. Never thought about that.
Is that her full name, Beatrix?
No, Beatrice is who Dante Alighieri is looking for in
Dante's
the Inferno.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and Trish is them being clever. And then, there's the more obvious one, Virgil, named after Virgil. But yeah, the Trish one blew my mind.
I don't know anything about the Dante Inferno epic poem.
So back when that game, Dante's Inferno, came out, being somebody who grew up loving Devil May Cry, I was very excited for it, and I went and bought the Divine Comedy and read it all probably like 3 or 4 times, because it's a dense read, because it's mostly speaking in phrases and idioms, and you kind of have to decipher it, but it's really, really expertly written.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that you actually read that. Mm-hmm. So who is Virgil in the Divine Comedy then? The book, the poem.
Virgil is he was a Roman politician, I think. He helps Dante get through hell.
Okay.
He's kind of like a guiding light for his path to finding Beatrice.
Which kind of makes sense. And I guess for everyone's benefit, spoilers to fucking back, because we're going to be talking about the game story in depth here.
It's 19 years old. If you care about spoilers, that's your fault.
Well, everything PS2 is at least 10. Well, any game for PS2. Oh, no. The latest PS2 game, the last one came out in 2012 or 2013. So the last PS2 game isn't even 10 years old yet, which is wild to think about. This console had a lifespan and a half. That it lasted right up until, I think, either just before or just after the PS4 and Xbox One launched. So it spanned almost 2 full generations, which is just crazy. Mm-hmm. Hideki Kamiya, this is pretty much what became his signature style of game. The gameplay in this is very based off of is based off a lot on combos and how quote unquote stylish you can be. Mm-hmm. And he tried to make Dante as stylish, once again, quote unquote, as possible. And Dante, admittedly, he looks pretty cool.
Hey. You knock off that quote unquote, because Dante is a cool guy. Look right here at my notes, biggest thing written,
Dante
very bottom.
I see it. There's a big ass asterisk. Two of them.
That's factual. Dante is cool, listeners. He is stylish.
So let's dive into this story here. So the main character, it's about a guy named Dante, who you find out is a half demon, or is he whole demon?
He's half demon.
He's half demon. His mother is human. His father is demon. His father's name is Sparta.
Yep, with a D.
Sparta. Not Sparta. Sparta. And the game begins with a cutscene of this woman named Trish breaking into, it almost is like a detective agency.
Yeah. So
doesn't she drive her motorcycle through the window?
This is, as soon as I started playing, I wrote this down in a frantic fury, because I need to talk about the opening of this game.
Go for it.
Replaying it, I played this game probably back. I came to it a bit later. Should I get into that first?
By all means, whatever.
Yeah. So my introduction to the series was actually, ironically enough, Devil May Cry 2. Same friend that I saw playing Budokai, I came over his house and saw him playing Devil May Cry 2, and it blew my mind. And, this was probably... Devil May Cry 2 came out in, 2003?
It's a good question. I don't know if
I think it was roughly...
Keep going. I'll look it up.
I think it was roughly 2 years later. And so it was probably in the summertime. I remember going to this house, seeing Devil May Cry 2, just like Budokai, going, I need to have this. And my birthday's in the summer, so I got Devil May Cry 1 for my birthday. And so I definitely don't remember the opening of this game, But replaying
Good call.
it,
January 25th, 2003 was
you
its
go.
initial release date. I'm sure that's the Japanese release date. I don't know I'd have to look closely
yeah, I
for
think
the
they
American
came
one.
out. I think 1, 2, 3 all came out 2 years apart.
January 25th, 2003 is the North American release date. January 30th, 03 is the Japanese. So it actually came out in the U.S. beforehand.
I got it exactly 6 months after it came out, because of my birthday. But yeah, so the opening of the game, you get this very, very 2000s feeling title scroll, talking about like 2 millennia ago.
Oh
the
my God,
demon
you're
King
right.
Mundus.
That is every single 2000s fantasy movie.
That exact clip. If you told me that it was from the Spawn movie, I wouldn't. I would believe you without thinking. I'd go, yeah, that's Spawn. And so you get that little opening, a little scroll explaining Sparta, and then it cuts over to, I guess, the city. Maybe like
Wherever
New York
he's
or
at. They
something.
don't really tell you.
I feel like Dante is like a New Yorker.
He seems like it.
He's got the spunk, and
The spunk.
and yeah. So you see a neon sign, place called Devil May Cry, badass name.
It is a good name. I'm not gonna lie.
He's answering the phone, Devil May Cry, this and that, and yeah, he's running a demon hunting business, which I'll get back to you.
It's almost Yu Yu Hakusho-ish.
You know what? Now I'll ask it now. What do you think Dante's rates are? Because
His
I'm dying to
rates?
know.
Oh, for demon removal.
Yeah, like
I mean,
how do you stay in business?
He's definitely in competition with the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
With all their exorcisms. So it's got to be a competitive pricing. So it can't be anything outlandish. He doesn't have a monopoly here.
I don't know though, but I could also see him being that type of like,
I can
type
get rid of
guy
your
where
demon
maybe
without
he
the
ends
religion.
Up not, if low income people get demonized too. So you think he's going to go and just take all their money and be
No,
like,
I'm
"I
not
killed
saying
the
he
demon."
would. That's what I'm saying. It's competitive pricing.
Yeah.
He's not going to market himself based off because if you have a monopoly, you can just raise your price up to unrealistic proportions because
think-
you're the only one in town.
Does he pay by the hour? Does he pay by the demon type?
Definitely by. I bet you the hourly rate is based off the demon type.
Maybe.
That's what I'm guessing. I'm gonna guess basic demons like those stupid like puppet demons that you saw the string. It almost looks like they literally look like puppets.
Actually called mannequins.
Mannequin demons.
Maybe I might be wrong.
I would say those are $30 an hour.
Okay,
And
that's pretty. That's pretty good.
I mean-
especially because they always come. They come in a pack.
You're right. I mean, then we'll go $30 per.
Okay.
It'll be per demon. $30 per mannequin. Maybe like 50 per those weird. What is it? Those. I'm just blanking on it now.
The ghost ladies with the scissors.
Yes, because
Yeah.
that's the second demon type you fight in the game.
I will throw as much money as he wants to get those things away from
Those
me.
things are awful. So yeah. So she.
Yeah,
is-
sorry.
No,
I went off rails.
No, you're good.
So he's answering the phone, taking business call, and then she just comes crashing through his door on a motorcycle, pops a sweet wheelie, and Dante, being the cool guy that he is like, all right, I'm going to immediately put the moves on this chick, and then starts talking about the fact that he's a demon hunter, and shows her his giant sword.
Out of context. So.
And then she grabs it and I guess more or less reveals that she's a demon because she electrocutes him with the sword, then beats the crap out of him, kicks him to the wall, throws that sword at him, and then picks up her motorcycle and tries to throw that at him. But Dante, being a cool guy, pulls out his two guns, Ebony and Ivory. Which
Is that his gun's name?
yes, and they're black and white, and they're named Ebony and Ivory.
I did not know that.
And he shoots the motorcycle back at her. And just bam, end of podcast. Great game. You can't beat that. That is an opening.
This game is so amazingly anime in the worst and yet awesome way.
Anime is good sometimes.
That's a sentence.
Yeah.
No, there's so many, as you guys probably heard in the little clip at the beginning of this episode. It's got some interesting voice acting. It's
Yeah,
got some interesting moments. There's so many.
We'll get to that moment.
There's so many moments in this game that make no sense. It's so anime it hurts. And if you like anime, you can appreciate how bad that is, but you legitimately appreciate it. Like, you're enjoying how bad it is. It's almost an ironic liking, but at the same time, you secretly love it. I don't know.
It hurts so good.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, guilty pleasure. But then, I guess Trish basically explains that the Demon King Mundus is coming back, and she wants to hire him. And then, I don't know if you picked up on it, because it doesn't really explain it till later, but when Dante sees her face without her sunglasses on, it kind of flashes to like a picture he has at his desk. They don't make it clear then, but the reason why is because she looks like his mom.
They make it clear at the end of the game, yeah.
So then, she takes you to Mallet Island, and
Mallet Island.
It's a good name. It's cool. And it's basically just a medieval castle, but an island. And that's really where that's where the gameplay picks up. The first thing I noticed when they actually let you take control of Dante is there's two things. One, the cinematic camera angles they chose. They were very cool camera angles that made the game feel a lot more epic. And the other thing I noticed is that they all suck. They look visually cool, but for gameplay purposes, it is not fun to play through the game with those fixed camera angles. God of War gets it right in the sense where they don't move the camera angles all that much. The camera jumps continuously depending on where you are in the room. Yeah, it kind of clashes with the style of the game because your biggest enemy at times can be the camera, which is really a lot of PS2 games, but definitely.
And I'm willing to forgive the bad camera because it's such an old PS2 game. It's 2001.
Yeah.
It's practically a long. Actually, it is a launch
year,
game.
Right?
It's within the first year. It's within the launch window, but it does make specific moments that we'll get to as we go through the story and whatnot very difficult. Specifically, when you fight the bird on the pirate ship.
Yeah,
it's very disorienting in there.
That's. Yeah, any sequence related to water is probably the worst part of this game.
I would say so. Now, admittedly, a lot of my opinion on this is going to be colored by the fact that I suck at this game. It is a very difficult game, and that was very intentional. Kamiya really wanted to make it a very difficult game. I forget. I actually wrote a quote down for him. I guess I don't have it on there, but he intentionally wanted to make it difficult because he thought everything at the time was being too nice to players. And I don't have an issue with that. I would say I'm going to get my biggest gripe with the combat out right now so I can just say it and we can move on, and I won't harp on it. I think the difficulty is more artificial than not. A lot of people compare this difficulty in this game to a more modern context with like Dark Souls and with Bloodborne. And I'm bad at those games as well. Those games, the difficulty comes from you memorizing patterns. If you're not good, or not even patterns, but it's from noticing all the enemies' tells, and it's a very trial and error type of game. I don't like those kinds of games. I don't enjoy bashing my head on a wall multiple times just to get 2 inches further within a game. This game's similar to that, but where the difficulty is in Bloodborne and Dark Souls, it feels more fair. This one, it feels padded because the enemies take so many hits. They're just damage sponges. And I don't have an issue with that if the enemies didn't take out a third of your health with every hit. Just about. As the game goes on, you start killing the weak enemies within one hit, which makes sense. That's how you want to feel powerful. So once again, good game design. But my biggest overall gripe is just that, especially early in the game, it just doesn't. The difficulty is not fair. Not because it is difficult, but because it's just the enemies have an unnecessary amount of hit points. If they would have made it so they still hit you hard, but you, instead of killing them in 8 slashes, it took like 5, I think, each. I know that's such a specific thing. I think that would have been a lot more fair, because then 2 hits wouldn't have screwed me over for the rest of the mission.
Yeah, talking to you, gearing up for the episode, it was interesting to me that you had so much trouble with it, because Devil May Cry is definitely a series that's known for difficulty, and maybe it's just because I'm a bit more familiar with the genre. it's
You
probably one
also
of my
just might
favorite
be better
genres.
at those types of games.
I really didn't have that much difficulty at all with it. I beat the game pretty quick. I only died, I think, like 7 or 8 times. And so I've been thinking about it, and I think I found the solution as to why you were having trouble with it.
Okay.
The game is rated M, which means it's not for babies.
You son of a bitch.
So, no, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just a bit more familiar with it.
No,
or
I
I have more experience. So, like, I'm probably better at it just because I've been playing these games since I bought Devil May Cry 1.
I will say, so like I said, my only real gripe with it is just the fact that they're all damage sponges, and that's not fun for me necessarily.
I understand.
Bloodborne enemies, at least from when I played Bloodborne, and I don't like Bloodborne, not because the game itself is bad, but because I'm bad at it. They don't feel like damage sponges. That you take them out in 1 or 2 hits, but the difficulty comes from all of your swings in that game have so much weight that you have to really time your attacks and time your dodges. And it's the same for this. There's a little less weight to your attacks in Devil May Cry, but you still have to time your attacks and time your dodges. And I found it easier just to mash the shooting pistols at enemies than I did anything else. And that's so the whole purpose of the pistol is not to necessarily do damage, it's to keep your combo going. And the combos give you better ratings, and then the ratings are arbitrary. I don't think it affects the ending, does it?
It doesn't affect the ending. It's basically, actually...
It's bragging rights.
It's bragging rights. I think it was part of the thing, too, like the entire combo system and difficulty. I think it was partially also just to give the game more legs, because it's a pretty short game.
It is a short game. The long play I saw, it was only 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And the guy died 1 or 2 times and also got lost a handful of times.
Yeah, I mean, I beat it in a little over 5 hours. First time playing the game in probably 15 years. If I were to go and replay it, I could definitely beat it in under 3. The combos, I know in later games, as your combo goes up, your damage goes up. So if you're hitting an S combo, you're doing more damage per hit. Okay. But I don't think that's a thing in the original game.
Okay. I mean, if it is, it's not indicated during the game. Now, we were talking about this before, because the first boss you get to. So I guess let's talk about the gameplay up until the first boss. Okay. So a lot of the game is not a lot. The entire game is broken up into different missions. You have 23 total missions, right?
Yep, 23.
They grade each of your combat things and they tell you right in the top right. It'll say dull, cool, awesome. I don't know if there's anything else above awesome. I think there's
S.
one.
S.
Stylish. That's it. So in each of your combat situations, you'll see a word in the top right corner, and it'll tell you if it's dull, cool, awesome, or stylish. At the end of each, and bold,
yeah, DCBAS.
Okay, so it has each of the letters. Okay, and then when you beat the mission, it gives you a ranking as well of your overall ranking throughout the mission. And then it gives
you a total at the end when you beat the game. It gives you your ranking for that playthrough.
Makes sense. So I believe the first boss occurs in the middle of the third mission, either maybe the middle, the fourth.
No, it's basically the third mission. Usually a boss mission is a little bit beforehand, essentially just getting to the boss, and then the mission itself is the boss. So it's mission 3. Before we go into that, I want to talk about another moment in mission 2. After you go to the Mallet Island, you get into the castle, you start investigating, spooky stuff's happening, there's weird mannequins and creepy ladies with scissors. You see a sword in a statue.
Oh yeah, this scene.
And this is one of the top moments in this game. I think when I was young, this is one of those things that just blew my mind.
Oh yeah, any kid especially at the age you were at when this game came out, because you would have been
10 or 11.
Yeah, this would have been the coolest fucking thing in the world to them.
It's still kind of it. Dante is still one of the coolest dudes in the world.
I'll tell you why I think he's a little less cool later on. It's not. I don't think it's his fault. I think it's the way they chose to tell the story's fault. I'll go into it.
We'll get into it because there's he has his moments where he's not cool, but look, everybody slips. We'll get into that. But so you see this giant sword in the statue, and Dante probably thinks, well, it's a giant sword, so it's right up my alley. And then it starts emitting lightning and shoots out and stabs him through his chest, pins him to the ground.
Yeah.
Dead. Dante's dead. Except Dante, cool guy,
not dead,
climbs
totally
up
cool
the sword,
and not dead.
climbs through it, which would make the
Without
hole in
using
him
his hands.
bigger.
Without using his
he
hands,
just
he just
basically
rises
like
out of it.
Undertaker rises.
Yeah.
And again, like the hilt would make the hole bigger, so not really practical, but you got to commit to the bit. And then picks up the sword and just starts swinging it around and being a badass. And then that's just like, that sword's just his now.
It's called Alistair, I think.
Yep,
Alistair.
yeah.
Alistair.
And it's got like a cool, like the hilt is like a dragon mouth.
I found that to be, and so, I mean, it's the only weapon I got in the game because, like I said, I was bad at this game. I got to the first boss and rage quit. I didn't even say rage quit. I got to the first boss, tried it once, couldn't figure it out. I was like, I'll get back to it. I'm like, I don't have time because I got to prep for these other Summer of PS2 episodes. So I watched a long play. But it's the guy who was playing the long play. It seemed like that was the most useful weapon. I mean, would you agree?
Definitely. You get another sword later on that's good. But the thing with Alistair is that it gives you Devil Trigger, which I talked to you about this. One of the major things in the game, probably one of the biggest issues, is the tutorializing. It doesn't tell you anything.
I don't have an issue with that either, only for the fact being is that it's a 2001 PS2 game.
Yeah.
And at that time, not a lot of games were giving you giving you the tutorial through gameplay. It was a lot of it was you had to read the manual. Don't get me wrong, there are exceptions. Mario 64, the Banjo-Kazooie games, they teach you all your abilities as you go along. Almost it's a little bit obnoxious because they overdo it. But as long as I think we said it, as long as it's in the manual, I'm cool with it. Actually, I have the game manual right here. I'm going to go look to see if it is. You keep on talking. I'm going to see if it's in the manual. Just making sure I'm not bullshitting here.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you're right. It's in the manual, but I remember talking to you about it. You had a little trouble with the first boss that we're going to get to in a sec, and it's because the key to beating him is using Devil Trigger, which is pressing L1, and Dante kind of goes like half demon form and looks really cool. And
He has a couple different forms of that, too.
yeah, he gets like a full Devil Trigger at the end of the game, and then he gets even more Devil Trigger, fuller, in other games in the series. But yeah, so I mean, Alistair, Devil Trigger is such an important thing. It makes you faster, it makes you stronger, you heal while you're in it. It's pretty crucial to playing that game. And also, just Alistair is just a good weapon. It's good for crowd control. The other weapons have their moments, but that is definitely the one I stuck to throughout it.
I'm trying to see here. So they tell you how to roll, somersault, rolling dodge, somersault, jump, check items, gun attack, lock on, high time, which is hold down R1 and move the left analog stick away from Dante, away from the direction Dante is facing, and press the circle button. Continue holding. Hit the circle button. Continue holding the button to jump. Finally, when jumping, press the circle button again to slash and bash enemies in the air. Okay. So it does tell you Devil Trigger right in here. Yep. You can use Devil Trigger by equipping either the Thunder Sword or the Flame Gauntlets. And I think it's weird they didn't give them their
I forgot
names.
That they that the gauntlets have Devil Trigger as well. But
When
not the other sword.
when either item is equipped, or three or more DT gauges or Devil Trigger gauges are charged, press the L1 button to perform Devil Trigger and use the Devil Power while it lasts. And then it does Alistair Thunder Devil, and Ifrit Fire Devil. While using Devil Trigger, Dante's attacks become more powerful and his vitality recovers a little. You can extend Devil Trigger by using Purple Orb, or cancel the Devil Trigger by pressing L1 again, so you can conserve some of that devilish energy. So yeah, it's in the manual, and that's a very old school style of game design where you had to read the manual in order to know how to play the game. Now, admittedly, even on this early PS2 era, that was for the most part phased out. It was at the latter half of it being completely phased out, because even if you look at early PS2 stuff like Jak and Daxter, it had all the tutorials for how you do everything right then and there. They had that full tutorial island in the original Jak and Daxter. And it's the same thing with Ratchet and Clank. It's the same with a bunch of these early PS2 games. And like I even mentioned, a bunch of N64 games. They teach you everything as you go along. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that they had it in this, but at the same time, I'm a little disappointed that it was like that, because there was precedent at that time to have fixed that.
Yeah, I mean, and I would, I'd actually argue that goes along with your artificial difficulty. they could have a tiny menu pop up to tell you that, and they don't. So that's certainly something that lines up. I can confirm that 2 and 3 have proper, like, hey, this is how you attack.
Would you say 2 and 3 is easier than 1?
No.
No, really?
No.
What about 4? I've heard 4 is like a little bit more fair.
So I was actually going to mention this at some point. I would say if you're looking to get into the series, like maybe give it another shot, I would say 5 is your best bet. 5
the newest
came out
one that
last
just came,
year,
that just most recently came out at the time of this recording.
5 is smart enough to realize that you should make the game playable even if you're not good at it, but then also have that added layer of trying to be stylish when you are good at it. The Ninja Theory one is probably the most casual.
That's
but
just DMC,
it's kind of,
right?
Yeah, it's kind of a different game, which, real quick, I mean, you and me were talking about earlier, like, what type of genre is this game? And it's a tricky genre.
We were talking off mic about it. Yeah, we were talking off mic about it's considered a character action game.
Yep.
But what is the definition of a character action game? That's the hard thing. We've been trying to pinpoint that. It's a little hard to define.
Yeah, and I actually I went and tried looking around because I've seen other terms for this game too. I also refer to it as a character action game. Apparently, a pretty common consensus is to split it into a subgenre of stylish hack and slash and casual hack and slash. The Capcom Devil May Cry's would be stylish because it's much more about,
well, they literally have a
being
gauge,
more precise,
gauging your style.
Yeah, and like being just, I guess, better at the game. Games like God of War and Ninja Theory DMC, they're more casual.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely
I have Ninja
not
Theory's DMC,
easier
so I
games.
might try that.
People hate on that game. It's a great game.
I need to try that then. Because I will admit, the difficulty I do think is, I'm trying to be objective with it too. I think objectively the difficulty is unnecessarily padded, but I will say a lot of my frustration with it isn't the difficulty's fault. It's my inability to master that difficulty. So I will readily admit that is a problem with me.
Yeah.
What I did think was weird about, because we're getting up to that first boss, we're pretty much there.
Yeah. Phantom.
That's the name of the scorpion looking thing?
He's like a lava spider with the scorpion tail.
Okay. I do think it's weird how this game is designed in terms of its quote unquote puzzles. It's pretty much you find some arbitrary item, you remember some other location earlier in the castle that you explored that had the same shape as that arbitrary item. You go back to it, you use that item as a key, and then you move on to the next segment. And that's, for the most part, that's how the game progresses you in between bosses and in between story elements.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of intense story, like moment-to-moment story details as you play through the game. It's not like Bloodborne where it tells a lot of the story through its environment. Do any of those items, because they're very specific names. Each of the items have a very specific name. In fact, at the end of the game, you get a Philosopher's Stone to unlock the last area. And I thought that was odd because it doesn't seem like it has any bearing on the story. Do you know if it does? Or is it just is it items that kind of fit in with the concept of the Divine Comedy?
I think it does actually tie to it. There's appendixes in the game, and I know for a fact that with bosses and enemies and villains, they do give you backstory if you go and look at them, and as you fight them more and more, you unlock more I guess like dialogue for that character or villain. I don't remember if there is specifically stuff for the items. I would think that there is, because yeah, like you said, like the Philosopher's Stone, that's the key to the underworld. And yeah, kind of a weird thing to have not talk about that.
But then there's like the lion's mane and stuff like it's not the mane, but you get what I'm saying. There was like something lion related.
Yeah.
But it was bizarrely specific name. Like they could have just done generic keys, but they didn't. They had very specific items. And I don't know if it was definitely intentional, clearly, but I don't know what their intention was. That's why I thought it was so strange.
I do think that is something where the fact that, as you mentioned earlier, this was originally a Resident Evil game really shows its roots, because that is very Resident Evil.
I've never played those games, believe it or not. I have the first Resident Evil.
They are all about...
And I have the fourth one.
Yeah.
I hated the controls for the fourth one.
They are all about find this item and use it at a spot you used to be at. That is a huge thing for those first 2 or 3 games.
It's very Metroidvania-ish, backtracking through, especially this one because it's a castle that you're exploring. It feels very much... Like, I still haven't even played Symphony of the Night. That's like one of my gaming Everyone has what I call like a gaming sin, like a game you've never played and you know you should. That's one of mine. I know I need
Same
to play.
here.
I need to play Symphony of the Night. So you go to fight. What's the spider lava Phantom?
Phantom.
I thought its voice was kind of weird,
Yeah.
but it was just I wasn't expecting it to actually speak because it doesn't look like it should, but it did.
Yeah. So, curious question: the voice acting, did it seem low volume during things like when Phantom and Dante talk? It was really like maybe it was just my game's audio, but it was kind of hard to hear them. Like I had subtitles on, luckily.
Dante, no. Phantom, yes.
Okay.
Phantom was a little hard to hear. Dante, in general, I thought sounded fine. There was a couple moments, but for the most part, I didn't have any audio issues.
Okay. Yeah, and then you fight Phantom, and I think this kind of goes back to the game not teaching you, because the only way you can hurt him is in Devil Trigger, and the game doesn't tell you how they activate Devil Trigger.
And it doesn't tell you that certain enemies can only be hurt by Devil Trigger. But at the same time, that's not the game's fault. I think that onus should be on the player, because when you're fighting a boss and you're struggling, you need to use everything at your
press L1.
Yeah, like try all the buttons, like try all your different abilities. So that I do agree that they should have said something, but it was in the manual. So if you read the manual and you saw that you have that ability, you should have known. You should have known that you could have done it, but it is frustrating because that you told me that I just haven't had a chance to go back to try to beat that boss with it, because the mechanics of the boss aren't that hard to figure out. It has a couple like lava pools that shoots up out of the ground that you have to just run around and dodge. Just dodging it itself is not difficult.
Yeah.
It's damaging it is really difficult.
Yeah. Like, I remember you told me that you had gotten stuck on him, so when I played it, I activated Devil Trigger, ran up, hit him in the face, and killed him in maybe 2 minutes. So, but I understand you didn't know they used Devil Trigger because it didn't tell you.
I didn't even know it existed.
Yep.
So after you defeat Phantom, it took me a second. I had to remember what his name was. I did actually like the little section leading up to him. How you walked across a bridge, the bridge gets destroyed, and then you have to hop back across it, which I think is kind of cool.
Missed every time.
Did you?
I'm not really good at platformers. I mean, I love platformers. I love Mario games, but I always miss. Luckily, you just go to the bottom of the water and
you fight a couple more skulls and you go back up top. I will see. That's where my specialty is. I'm not good at character like stylish action platformers. I'm not good at Bloodborne. I'm not good at Dark Souls. I am good at platformers, both 3D and I'm getting better at 2D, like precision platformers. I wouldn't say I'm like a good Mega Man player by any stretch. Mega Man's really difficult, but Mario games I'm pretty good at. Like I beat Mario 3 and that's a tough game.
Yeah.
But anyway, so after you beat Phantom, you pretty much just keep, because the game doesn't give you any direction as to why you need to go in a certain direction. You're just going into the next open door that just opened from you defeating him. And is there, up until the next boss, which I know you probably have a lot to say about that next boss, is there any memorable moments prior to the introduction of that boss that you can think of? Because otherwise we'd just be like talking about you fight some new enemies and that's about it.
There's not, so without getting into the next part, I guess for me the most memorable thing was just replaying this game, seeing how Resident Evil it really is. It's very, it's finding those little puzzle pieces and opening doors, being in a fixed location. Spencer Mansion in Resident Evil 1, Mallet Island Castle, even the camera angles, they're a very Resident Evil thing. That sense of loneliness, because even though Trish goes with you to the island, she ditches you first chance she gets.
Literally the first minute
she just hops up and is like, all right, peace. Good luck. Go beat the Demon King.
I can see what you're saying. It isolates you.
And it's not a horror game, but there's definitely horror elements.
There's only one enemy in the entire game where I thought was legitimately horrific, and it's pretty far into the game. It's actually near the end, I'm pretty sure. There's like this weird homunculus-looking thing that puts a mask on its face and then like it transforms into a larger version of itself, and it just, fucking...
Those guys are assholes to fight, too. They are not fun.
Literally, when I was watching the long play of it, I was creeped out the whole time. I just had a frown on my face, not because I thought it was bad. I was just like, no, thank you.
See,
and the screeches it would make. Oh, it's just nasty.
That's me with the I can't believe I can't remember the name, but the wraiths with the scissors. I don't know what it is, but those giant crooked scissors, they're they're freaky. I wasn't scared, but
actually
it's
still
a
have
really
the manual.
cool enemy design. That's something else about this game. Like, enemy design is great.
They're called sin scissors,
I knew that too.
or sin scythes.
Now, Sin, Divine Comedy.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Phantom is the big boss that we're talking about. You also end up fighting Shadows, which are those cat monsters.
Yeah.
Those are annoying.
That happens shortly after Phantom and before the next boss.
It's kind of a mini boss.
He's tough.
The game does a good job of gauging your skill continuously, so that way you can never get to a spot in the game where you're in over your head.
Yeah. You have to earn your way through it. Boss fights are definitely skill checks.
And they're very different. I mean, and that's what they're supposed to be. Like I said, I really didn't enjoy this game because of how bad I was at it, but watching the person play it was a very fun game to watch, surprisingly.
Yeah, because if you're good at these games, the whole thing is about style. If you're good at these games, they're a blast, especially the later ones because they double down on that.
And actually, one of the ways to keep because the whole thing based on style is based off your combos, and to chain combos together, one of the major gameplay elements of chaining combos together was based off of Omnimusha Warlords, believe it or not. During a test play, Kamiya discovered a bug where you can indefinitely keep enemies in the air by slashing them, and it inspired the juggling mechanic where you could hit an enemy up, shoot him a whole bunch of times to keep your combo going, and then keep slashing. So that was baked into the game, even though the inspiration came from a bug from a different game.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I looked that up.
So the next thing is
the next big thing after you fight the shadow cat thing.
Probably my favorite moment in the game is the introduction of Nilo Angelo, which
stupid and yet amazingly dumb. It's an amazingly good yet dumb name.
It fits that Divine Comedy, Renaissance Gothic horror thing that the whole game is. That's the aesthetic of the entire game.
It also feels like a bad 80s sci-fi name. Nilo Angelo just sounds like that would be something in a Dolph Lundgren fantasy movie.
It sounds like the
Masters of
rejected
the Universe
original name for the Neo from the Matrix.
Yes.
That's his cousin, Neo's cousin Nilo.
Nilo Angelo.
So, one of the rooms you go into is the bedroom, and you see this sinister looking mirror, as Dante says to himself. And then it goes to cutscene. Dante turns around, not facing the mirror, but spooky. His reflection keeps looking at him.
The reflection faces back at him.
Yeah. And then, Dante realizes that, and then the reflection of himself walks through the mirror and turns into Nilo Angelo, who's this very, again, that Gothic Renaissance look.
He has this cool helmet on of these big horns. And it kind of looks almost like it would be one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Yeah. I could totally see it as in some other game.
And then, that's just a cool introduction, is he is originally Dante's reflection, which, when you think about it, is foreshadowing.
It
definitely
is heavy foreshadowing, because spoiler alert, you find out later Nilo Angelo, and it's not even explicitly said, which I give credit to the...
It actually is in the codex thing I mentioned.
Oh, really?
If you read Nilo Angelo's codex,
after you figure out the events.
Actually, the cutscenes, they talk about it too, where, he is Dante's brother Virgil.
Yep. And, maybe I just missed it in the long play. I thought I saw it, but I thought I didn't see anything in the long play of them explicitly saying he was his brother.
They definitely do.
It is very clear, because what happens at the end of it, after you defeat... So you fight a lot of these bosses numerous times. You fight Shadow, the fire scorpion spider thing. Phantom, the fire scorpion spider thing, numerous times. You fight Nilo Angelo numerous times. Yep. Some of the other bosses that you see later on, you fight numerous times.
Griffin and Nightmare are the other two.
Okay. So you fight them at least twice each. And after you finally defeat Nilo Angelo, I think on the second, or I think on the third.
It's towards the end of the game.
On the third time, you see him drop a pendant that's exactly the same as Dante's. And that's a big plot point, because we'll get to it when we get to that portion of it. But it kind of tells you right there, it makes sense. And also, after you fight him in this first time, he has a chance to kill you, but he sees the pendant on Dante and stops. Throws him against the wall and runs away.
Yeah. And actually, now that I think about it, they do explicitly say that he is Virgil, but they don't explicitly say that Virgil is Dante's brother.
That makes yes, you're right. Yeah, they do say
Because
it's
even
Virgil.
if you go into your inventory and look at the pendant, it says, because it's your mother's pendant, it says that, something about like with all my love, Dante and Virgil. So that's the game telling you that they're brothers, but they do not out loud say, "Hey, Dante is Virgil's
But
brother."
I actually am a fan of that because, and this is something I'm actually bad at in games, and this is I know it sounds so egotistical to say it's big coming from me, but like I normally don't like games that don't spell it out for you. I like exposition. I like not thinking. I just want it to happen. But I like the fact that they don't spell that out for you, that you have to pay attention to the game to kind of read through the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you, if I had not known Virgil was Dante's brother going into this, I probably wouldn't have picked up on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's cool that it's there for people who are observant enough
Mm-hmm.
to do it, because it doesn't take anything away from the story to have him not be his brother, but it just makes it 10 times cooler to know that Virgil is his brother. But you don't do they ever explain why Virgil turns evil, or why Virgil was evil in the first Devil May Cry?
So
maybe in the third one, because that's a
Devil May
prequel?
Cry 3 is a prequel. So Virgil was always evil. It's, their character types are pretty cliche. They're both half demon. Dante is the good guy. He uses his powers for good. Virgil is the one who thinks that he's better than humanity. And so he's always not a good person. And then Dante kills him, and he becomes a servant of Mundus, who, again, is Satan.
And so you kill him in the third game. Spoiler alert for the
at
third
the end
game
of Devil
that
May
I've
Cry
never
3.
played.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting, at the time too, like Virgil is such a big part of that series. He's been in numerous games, and it makes me wonder, like, did Kamiya always plan to do a prequel? Did he plan to do more with Virgil? Because it's a character that's important to the larger lore that in Devil May Cry alone doesn't really do much.
It's kind of funny because I was thinking, what is it? I was thinking about this. Do you think this, like Devil May Cry, is Capcom's Metal Gear Solid? The reason I'm asking that, hold on, I need to look up the release dates for Metal Gear Solid 3 specifically. So Metal Gear Solid 3, right, came out in 2004, and then Devil May Cry 3...
2005.
2005?
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, that's kind of funny because they follow a similar story path. You have Metal Gear Solid 1. Metal Gear Solid 2 is a direct sequel to 1. Much maligned as well, comparably. I know a lot of people have grown to love Metal Gear Solid 2, but it's much maligned. And then Metal Gear Solid 3 is a prequel
You're
to
right.
1. Devil May Cry, first one's a classic. Second one is a little bit more maligned. Third one is considered a classic, and it's a prequel to the first one. And then the fourth one, is the fourth one bloated? Does it have a lot of cutscenes? Do you have a 2-hour-long cutscene in the fourth Devil May Cry?
I wish. No, I mean, you're definitely right. Those first 3 games follow a similar path. I would say that with Devil May Cry, they probably made more of it up as they went along, whereas I believe Kojima probably had more of a plan, at least somewhat.
I could picture that too.
But yeah, also for the record, Devil May Cry 2 is trash.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a bad game.
I haven't played
Metal
it.
Gear Solid 2 is a great game. Devil May Cry 2 is...
Well, I just remember Metal Gear Solid 2 when it came out, it subverted everyone's expectations because you don't play a snake for so long.
I've been replaying
actually,
that with
I haven't even
friends.
recorded it yet, but I guess at the time that this episode's released, the Metal Gear Solid 2 episode would have already been released. So yeah, it was a big subversion at the time, and it caused a lot of chaos within Metal Gear Solid fans.
Yeah. I remember there was a show, X-Play, on G4.
I never watched G4.
So
I know it. I know what the channel is, but I never watched G4.
They had a top 5 most disappointing sequels of all time, and both Devil May Cry 2 and Metal Gear Solid 2 were on that list, so it's funny that you would bring that up. But yeah, they're similar.
I do think though that in general people look back on Metal Gear Solid 2 a lot more favorably.
Than a lot of people consider it one of, if not the best game now. Whereas Devil May Cry 2
has just gotten
hasn't always
down.
will be the worst game in the series.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, after you fight Nilo Angelo, you don't know he's your brother yet. You fight him. It's a pretty tough fight from what I saw too. It seemed, at least.
He's one of those types of bosses where he's similar to you. his attacks are very
He's
similar.
the Shadow Link of the game.
Yeah, I mean, and again, he's your reflection. He's
Your
brother. So yeah, they're very similar. The key to beating him that I found pretty much anytime I had trouble with the game is just be aggressive. If you don't let him attack, he can't hurt you.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I saw the guy doing it. He kept doing the forward slash like stab move.
Yep, the stinger.
And then that just stops him in his tracks
Yep,
so
yeah,
often.
it's easy to break his animation because he always like does kind of like a long winding slash. And so, yeah, I mean, you just kind of got to beat him to it.
But then after that, he runs away, and after he almost killed you, and then you progress on. Now, this is where my memories of the long play get a little foggy. I actually paid a lot of attention right up until this point, and then it's kind of boring for me to watch the rest of the way through. What are some moments? Because I believe the next boss is then the bird. What was the name of the bird?
Griffin.
The Griffin, or just Griffin?
Yeah.
I believe that's the next major boss, right? Or do you fight Nilo Angelo again? I think you fight him again, and then Griffin.
You do. So, yeah, I mean, the middle of the game is probably the weakest part, and it's only because there's less moments, I guess.
There's just no story in the middle of the game. It's all arbitrary exploration.
Yeah, it's very bookended. And yeah, it's that one thing that definitely comes to mind is, and it's a cool thing about these reoccurring bosses, is there will be sequences where you go down a hallway and Phantom just starts chasing you and spitting fireballs at you, and you have to dodge him.
And if you just walk in the door and walk back out, he's gone.
Yeah. Game design. But that also makes it satisfying because when you later on kill Phantom, it's like, you fucker, I finally got you.
I do like the fact that they kind of make it so the bosses haunt you. You have to keep and actually defeating Phantom is a really cool moment because they drop a giant column on top of it and impales him.
Yep.
And then Mundus kills him.
No. So you're confusing him with Griffin.
I am confusing him.
You fight Phantom on the ceiling, and then after you beat him and kill him, he falls through and gets impaled by, I guess, like...
That's what it was.
Just a gate or some type of sharp thing. He falls through it. Very awesome moment. Very cool death. And then it also cuts to Trish, who, I guess has just been... watching the whole time, and she says something like, "Oh, he's really powerful." Which, yeah, I mean, he shot a motorcycle at you with his guns after you stabbed him. But also, when Phantom's dying, he looks up at Dante and goes like, "Oh, can it be Sparta?" And it kind of flashes, and it's supposed to show like, Dante is as powerful, if not more powerful, as Sparta, his dad. And I like this jumps ahead a lot, but I like how at the end of the game they really emphasize the importance of being human. It's, because Trish cries and he's like, "Oh, Trish, demons can't cry, so that means these tears, you're part human. Let's be human together," or something like that. It was a really fucking dumb line. Dante is a cool guy. I will continue to emphasize that. I like that. That's the same. We've had conversations off mic about as your go-to description for any character you adore. All right, look, hear me out. Early 2000s, Dante, Spawn, Blade, Wolverine. They're all going to the bar together. Wolverine's like the president of the cool guy club. And they're just all hanging out because they're all cool dudes. And Dante is a cool dude, but, I guess he's got some weird Oedipus complex mommy issues because when he's talking to Trish is when weird. He's not cool, saying things like "devils never cry. This is the gift of a human." Dante, you're better than that. I'm glad you remember the dialogue that specifically because I saw it. I was like, and I just moved along. Yeah. It's. And then they even we'll get back on track, but at the end of the game they renamed Devil May Cry to Devil Never Cry, which that's a dumb fucking name. It's a bad. It doesn't flow, and it just reminds me of that lame moment. And Dante once again Dante is better than that. You're right. But yeah, so after you kill Phantom, there's not really that much memorable stuff. You do some underwater levels, which are the worst part of that game. Luckily, they're about a minute long, but you literally go underwater. It's first person and becomes kind of a light gun game. Yeah. And the camera is so loose that every single time I moved, I had to stop and
And
readjust.
this is actually leading up to the boss fight that I was talking about before with
Griffin.
the shitty camera angles.
Yeah.
Because you fight Griffin once before.
Yeah.
I believe
You
before
fight
that.
no. The first time you fight him is on the pirate ship, but
Is
I
it?
think you see him before.
That's what it is. No, he fought him once before the pirate ship. I remember on the
No, you only fight him twice. You fight him
Really?
pirate ship and
Well,
Coliseum.
in any case, you get onto the pirate ship and you have to go through those underwater levels to get on the pirate ship. And then you somehow magically unsink the pirate ship and it sails off.
Demon power, baby.
Demon power, I guess. And then you fight and you fight a bunch of enemies, and then the swords that are blocking you from the captain's cabin open up, and then right at the next minute you see Griffin fly over and they close up again, and he has to go fight him. And this fight, watching this guy fight, I was getting so mad for him or her, because there's like 3 different levels that you can see. There's because you can climb up the mast, the main mast on the boat or on the ship, and you can either fight Griffin all the way up at the top of that main mast or all the way down the bottom. And going up the main mast, the camera changes twice. It changes once in the middle and changes a second time up at the top. So there's 3 different camera angles this is choosing from, not counting all the multiple ones you'll get when you're on the floor of the ship. So if you go climb up to the top, magically get up to the top without getting hit, and you fight and you fall the way off, now all of a sudden you're completely disoriented because you don't know where you're at anymore, because the camera angle consistently changes. This was the one time where I thought, that's not, I don't care that it's a 2001 game, still learning camera angles. That's bad. That is not a good moment.
You know what makes a game fun? Putting a giant mast and flags in front of your view while you're fighting a boss in the air. The Griffin fights are definitely the worst boss fights,
because you can't
both times,
and it's also
not fun.
It's so hard to hit him too, because
Just shoot him.
That's the only thing you can do.
Yeah, you just shoot him. Eventually, he'll get low, and then smack him around, and
And then he flies
that
off again,
the
and you
trick.
have to keep shooting. It's once again unnecessarily difficult, because that fight feels more out of your control than the others do. Like even the enemies I was complaining about before, like the stupid marionettes that I think take way too long to kill, that still feels like it's in my control. I just think it's unnecessary how long it takes to kill them, which is the padded difficulty. This is like legitimately, like, it feels completely out of your control.
That whole ship thing is just weird too. Like it kind of just happened. I guess for aesthetic, maybe change up the environment.
It is weird though, because you're on an island. So is there like
Maybe there's like a cave in the island.
But it makes it. But he sails through like past a dock on the edge of it, so it makes it seem like there's a canal going straight through the center of the island.
Demon power.
I don't know, man.
It
was weird.
It's weird. And then so the ship happens, and then I think around then is when you fight Nilo Angelo a second time. There's really kind of nothing new with that fight.
He doesn't really change much at all.
No, and
throughout
then
any of them.
There's no more, but there's even like, at least that first fight you got the introduction, and the third and final fight you get the reveal that he's Virgil. But the second fight just kind of comes and goes.
Then you do end up fighting and killing after you fight Nilo Angelo a second time. Do you fight Griffin the second time, and that's when you beat him?
I believe so, and that's in the Coliseum. That fight, once again, not that fun, because that one, it's not even that the mast is in the way; it's that he flies up pretty high,
and it's so hard to hit.
And it can just kind of be hard. The same thing to shoot him, and when he gets on the ground, get in his face.
There's a couple moments. I don't know if it was before or after that. I think it's definitely before the third boss, which is, what's the third boss? The slime, the nightmare. Yeah, it wasn't insanely difficult platform, but there's some bullshit moments at the same time where there's these you're in a circular hallway, and the floor starts moving and the spikes are coming up, and you have to keep running forward.
Yeah, you do things like that
I
twice.
thought that was actually kind of cool. My only beef with it is that you have to fight the scissors, like the sin scissor enemies, and while you're trying to dodge spikes on a moving floor, so you can't stop moving to hit them. That part I thought was complete bullshit, because they give you such a small space to attack, and it's so easy for you to get hit. It is so easy for you to get hit there. I thought that was super unfair. The guy who hadn't died at all died like 3 or 4 times on the long play.
I actually didn't die during that part.
Really?
Yeah. The thing is with those rooms, there's usually a little side room, and you just got to kind of lead the Sin Scissors into that room. And then they, especially as you get through the game, they die after like 3 hits. It's just you have to actually manage to hit them. They can be tricky. They block a lot. But yeah, that part, it's kind of just you got to time everything right, which definitely I can understand why somebody else had difficulty. I guess I just got lucky or...
Yeah. So you then fight the nightmare, right?
Well, real quick, you had mentioned earlier, but Griffin's death scene is pretty cool. You fight him in a coliseum, and then you drive that like pillar through his chest, and then you get another flash of Dante looking like Sparta, and this one is to signify like, no, he is stronger than Sparta. And Griffin tries boasting and being like, I'm a call on Mundus, and he's going to give me the power to kill you. And it's a very kind of, if you remember in Dragon Ball Z when Nappa gets beat up by Goku and asks for Vegeta's hand, and Vegeta throws him up and blows him up. Yeah. Mundus literally does the same thing. He's like, nah, Griffin, you suck. Zap.
You know the price of failure.
Yeah,
or whatever
and
his voice
very
is.
Cool moment. And I think Trish might pop up then too, but they don't do the full reveal with her yet. After that, yeah, you then go to the nightmare.
Oh yeah, you do find out that Trish actually betrays you.
What?
I already said spoilers. It's fucking fun.
I more just mean that, who would have thought the mysterious woman who broke into your business and
threw a motorcycle
a motorcycle at you and then led you to this random island and ditched you, who would have thought she'd be evil?
And then you fall in love with her at the very end, which is it's ridiculous.
The guy has mommy issues, all right?
He does have mommy issues.
But so then you fight the nightmare, and I remember actually when I was younger, when I first played it, I don't know what happened, but I just remember being stuck on the nightmare for like a month. And not even the fight. Literally, I would walk into that room where his puddle was, and I didn't realize I had to observe the puddle. I remember my friend who I saw play the game came over and walked up to the puddle and pressed square, and I felt like an idiot. I don't know what it was, but that part's really cool too. It's very creepy. Right before the nightmare, they're like the shadows start turning into Dante. They're like shadows of Dante.
Oh, okay.
But they're really weak, and you fight a bunch of them.
It's the weird like rainbow colored shadows.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm thinking of? And you shoot. It's easier to shoot them because if they attack you, then it's a lot. Then they chain pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. And that is probably one of the closest moments that game feels to a horror game, because it's just like it's the nightmare, so I guess it's trying to be a little creepier. And yeah, then the nightmare reveal happens, and it's basically just this giant
are you
sludge.
talking about if you get absorbed by the nightmare?
No, it's right before you fight him. But when you get absorbed by him, he brings you into that, like, you go into like a core, another dimension maybe, and you fight previous bosses and skulls.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of cool.
You fight Phantom again, your buddy.
I do like that to fight Nightmare, you have to run around and find the seals, and you have to attack the seals till all the symbols light up.
Yep.
And once you do, all of its slime or whatever it is dissipates, and it reveals its body.
Yeah, the cylinder.
And even that, it's not weak yet. You have to wait till it opens up like its back. Pretty much, you have this big glowing blue ball you have to attack.
Nightmare design wise, like his character design is probably the laziest one, but boss design wise, he's maybe the most
the
creative.
Battle mechanics are super fun, because all the others, specifically like we mentioned, Griffin is an awful boss fight. Nilo Angelo really feels like you have to master your sword you have to have full mastery of your sword to do that. And then I guess, like you're saying, since it is skill checks, is it Phantom is the thing? I'm so bad with the names. Yeah. He is definitely like, can you use Devil Trigger? Can you use it? You can use it. Come on. Yeah. So that's definitely what it feels like. Yeah.
And Nightmare you end up fighting 3 times, and it makes sense because, like we had just said, you refight old bosses, they're weaker forms, but like the first time you fight Nightmare, you also fight Phantom. Second time you also fight Griffin. Third time you also fight Nilo Angelo. But in between the first and second time you fight him, you fight Nilo Angelo for the third and final time. That's where he shows up, and I think he just shows up with his helmet off, and he's got white hair, glowing red eyes, looks like Dante, And he's a lot more aggressive that time. There's a lot more
that boss fight
significance
was
to
kind
that
of fun to
fight.
watch. It was a lot of there's a lot of projectiles that he throws at you.
That's probably my favorite fight in that game. But same thing as before, just be aggressive.
And then once you defeat him, he drops the other amulet, and then you combine the two halves of the amulet together to form like the ultimate amulet.
And that's when your one sword, the sword that Dante brought, not Alistair, turns into Sparta, which is like, I guess, his dad's sword. And it kind of looks like Soul Edge from
That
Soul
scene was
Calibur.
super cool because that sword could turn into numerous things. It turned into a long-ass scythe that was way disproportionate.
Yeah.
It was like
Dante
20
being a
feet
cool
long.
guy, just, I just love that when he gets a new weapon, his instinct is just the swinging around like the Star Wars
Let me
kid.
impale myself with this first. Let's test this out.
Let's see how sharp it is.
All right.
And then also during that cutscene, you get the amulet, you get Sparta. Then it cuts over to Trish, who is talking to Mundus. And like we just talked about, Trish is evil.
Yeah.
Oh, who would have thought? And that's when they start talking about Virgil, too. And again, I guess they never say Virgil is Dante's brother. But if you've read any of the codexes or anything like that, like, or even just can piece together, like, this dude looks a lot like Dante.
Yeah.
That's when you get the reveal, though, about both Virgil and Trish. And interesting thing, so Devil May Cry 5, I won't get into it, but there's an important thing in 1 that when you fight and beat Nilo Angelo for the third and final time, Mundus specifically says Virgil has been defeated. He has not been killed. He does not say that second part, but he does not use the word killed, which is important for later in the series.
Makes sense.
Which I guess is a spoiler for...
I mean, he comes back, but fair enough.
Yeah. But then after that is when you start going to the underworld. And the underworld is pretty cool aesthetic. It's like very fleshy, very gross. You do things like collect the Philosopher's Stone to get to the underworld. You also fight Nightmare again. The Nightmare fights don't really change other than...
the Nightmare fight, the third the last Nightmare fight is where you find out that Trish betrays you.
Yeah, during the third fight, when you get him maybe down to like a third health left, Trish starts attacking you.
Yeah.
And that, I beat that part my first try, but I could see somebody having difficulty with that because while you're fighting Nightmare, Trish is shooting at you.
The way they had it in the long play I was watching, she had got one shot off on the guy and then didn't interfere with him at all the rest of the long play.
She was shooting at me the whole time, but I kind of just was like, all right, I got to kill Nightmare quick. So I just got right up on him. But she was like throwing her lightning.
Maybe I just didn't see it. But after you defeat Nightmare again, same mechanic as you defeated him the other times.
But you kill him that time.
You kill him that
Third and final time, he's gone.
And then you push Trish out of the way. Then Trish is about to die because a big pillar is about to fall on her. You push it out of the way. And she's like, Dante, why'd you save me? And he's like, you look like my mother. I don't know why I'm doing that voice.
No,
That's not how Dante sounds at all.
He kind of does. It's not far off. Yeah, he saves her and he goes, you look like my mother.
It's very Cartman-esque. You look like my mother.
You look like my mother. But then I guess she starts swooning the moment that he saves her.
So much swoon.
And tries to be like, wait, Dante, let's talk. And he's like, get the hell away from me.
You just tried to kill me.
You're a demon. As far he doesn't say this, but I guess his logic is like, we're even. Like, I just tried to save you, leave me alone. And then after that is when you go and do the Mundus fight, which is a really good sequence.
This is where I was going to bring back where Dante impaling himself and pulling himself out of that was I thought was kind of dumb. Good dumb, but then it became dumb right here because Mundus shoots these like red bolts at him and impales him. And all of a sudden, shit like that starts hurting, even though he got impaled with a lightning sword, and he was fine.
Maybe like demon... I know I keep going to this, but demon magic.
I guess.
Because it's coming from Mundus. I can't remember. There's something in between him leaving Trish and confronting Mundus. That might be... There's something in between there because he has Trish like basically crucified.
No, so right after Dante leaves, you see, you don't see Mundus, but you hear him you have failed me, Trish. You know the consequences or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that's the last you see of her until she is taken prisoner by Mundus.
Very cool thing too. So you're still in the underworld because very Dante's Inferno-esque. You're traveling through the underworld to fight Satan. When you go to confront,
Trish.
when you go to confront Mundus, you open up and go into the room he's in, and it's like a cathedral. It's white, very bright. It's really striking because when you think of Satan's throne room, it's kind of the exact opposite of what comes to mind.
Yeah.
It's almost more like if you were going to fight God, which I guess is probably on purpose, especially if, the Mundus is a giant statue that kind of looks like, like how somebody would depict God, which if he is Lucifer, that makes sense. It's a cool design.
I disagree with that, but I understand the point you're trying to make.
Yeah, it's very theological. Like
I could see that, but I almost more or less I don't consider it's definitely theological because he's clearly the devil, but I don't consider necessarily Dante trying to kill God. There's plenty of Japanese games that
I don't mean that Dante's trying to kill God. I more just mean that the designs they went with for Mundus are
very religious.
A lot more bright and.
I mean, there are plenty of games that do that. I just didn't think this one
king.
was. Yeah, no. I actually thought the reveal of when you fight Mundus was really cool because his statue starts shredding. Like all the pieces break off. But what's cool is underneath it, you don't see anything. It's just light. It's this bright yellow light. And then all of a sudden, the whole cathedral breaks off around you, and you're in space.
Yeah.
And then I thought this was kind of weird because it turned him into a shmup.
It's
almost.
Weird. Real quick, important story things right before that. Mundus does kill Trish, and
but Trish dies saving Dante.
Yeah, but not our line yet. The line's coming up. It's after the fight.
It's after the fight.
We'll save it. But so Trish dies, and I guess Dante's anger causes him to awaken his full devil trigger. And so he's basically now he's more what I would picture Mundus to look like, where he's like a full demon, and then he has wings, and then that's where it pulls out to what you are talking about, where it's in space and it's kind of like a rail shooter, and it
was a little odd. I was really worried that was going to be the final boss, and I mean he is the final boss, but I was really worried that was going to be the final fight, and watching it was like, that's how you're going to end it, with a shooter. And thank God, I mean, I didn't like what I saw for the second half of that fight, but I was very thankful that they did. I was much more satisfied with the way they did the final fight. And the reason I was saying I wasn't satisfied, or I didn't like the final fight, like the second phase of Mundus, is it just looked bullshit. It just looked like, just watching it, so much of it seemed unfair. There's not there's no way really to get to Mundus to hit him with your sword or anything like that. It feels all random because he creates these random basically it's a big circular thing. It's a big circular rock formation. It's hollow in the center and there's lava all underneath it. And think of it just like an O. And at random points the rock breaks, so that way, even though you're on the outer edge, you still have to jump over these gaps. And a lot of times you get stuck in the lava anyway. Thankfully, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage to you, but it still is there.
Yeah.
And then Mundus will randomly create other smaller circles within the center of the outer one that you're standing on, and they're taller, so that way you can raise up and run over to him to attack while dodging his stuff. That's all fine. But 9 times out of 10, he doesn't create a stone formation that's close enough to him for you to actually attack him with your sword. So it feels like you have to attack the random objects that he throws out into the level to not only give yourself health, but also give yourself devil trigger. Switch over to the fire gauntlets, and then use the devil trigger so that way you can hit him at a range to do a significant amount of damage. That's unnecessarily difficult. Like, it's not, I shouldn't even say difficult, that's unnecessary. Like, that's so arbitrary to how to kill him. It doesn't feel like you're using as much skill as you did with the Nilo Angelo fight, or hell, even just the last fight with Nightmare.
So I swear I'm not making this up. I sent you a picture. I beat the game recently. I beat it the other day. I beat Mundus first try. When you do the rail fight, I kind of just spammed his. I spammed his devil trigger attack, which he throws a dragon at him. He like launches a dragon, cool guy. Like
Cool guy club, part of the cool guy club.
He literally throws a dragon at Satan. And then, so spam that move, beat him, got to the lava sequence, and I guess I just got lucky then, whereas the video you watched didn't, because every time he spawned those platforms, they were right at his chest, which is where you hit him, and I would just activate Devil Trigger, mess him up, hop off, shoot him until he spawned it again.
I'll show you the video I watched, because maybe the guy was just really bad. That could have been it. Maybe he was just really bad. Just
an above average Devil May Cry player.
Maybe. I
don't
mean,
know.
He beat it faster than you, though. He did it in 3.5 hours.
It's true, yeah. I mean, he was pretty easy. Honestly, the times I died in the game, I only died to one boss, and it was Griffin in the Coliseum. But like, I didn't have trouble with the bosses. It was like the times I had the most trouble are when I was in a tight corridor with a lot of enemies.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
especially because the camera angles aren't very forgiving to help you with that.
So then you beat Mundus, maybe. And
you find out there he is 1/3 in final phase, which is a little bit of an easy phase, but we'll get to that.
Important thing I've learned in games, especially basically any game that comes out of Japan, it's never the last boss fight. You always fight bosses 2 to 3 times.
So you recently, this is a bit off topic, but it's dealing with boss fights that don't feel like they never end. You recently played through all the Kingdom Hearts games, so the majority of them.
Yeah, this was a low blow.
The first Kingdom, that's not a low blow. Don't be. I don't know why you're so embarrassed by liking Kingdom Hearts. I like Kingdom Hearts.
I'm embarrassed because I kind of.
Well, you trashed it for a while.
I spent so many years making fun of that series, and then I was like, I like anime. I probably would love it. And then I played it, and I love them, and I hate myself.
Oh, you're fine. But no, the final boss of the first Kingdom Hearts game, I think I counted, has like 7 or 8 phases.
Yeah.
It is so unnecessary. You want to talk about unnecessary difficulty? The Kingdom Hearts Be Thy Name.
Yeah.
The final boss has so many forms. It's stupid. I think I talked about it in my Kingdom Hearts episode years ago, but there was just so many forms to that boss.
Yeah, I would actually argue that the first Kingdom Hearts is harder than the first Devil May Cry, only because it's bullshit.
I was a lot better at Kingdom Hearts than I was at Devil May Cry.
See, we each have our thing. Yeah, but
Kingdom Hearts was like laughably easy to me compared to this.
No,
I shouldn't say that. That's over exaggerated. I definitely had some difficulty with it.
I don't think it was hard. I mean, maybe I just didn't have the patience for it, but I found so many things in that game bullshit and would often just bash my head against the wall. But really with the first game, the other games were fine. That first game, I like the series, but I think that first game is kind of a bad game, at least design-wise, but that's just me. I didn't have nostalgia
I'd have
for
to
it.
really think about it again. But anyway, so you defeat Mundus, or so you think, and then he comes back to see Trish on the floor.
Yeah. And do you want to read the line or me? 'Cause,
you can read the line.
Okay. So he goes up to dead Trish. He gets all sad.
I mean, they already heard the line at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, his mommy died. And so he just starts going like, why? I should have been the one to fill your dark heart with light.
It's so
there's
bad.
That other cool guy slip up where
Dark Soul, right?
Dark Soul with light. Where Dante, you're better than that.
He loses his cool factor a lot in the last like 10 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
After you defeat Mundus, there's that scene, even the final dialogue stuff, because you find out later on, spoiler alert, he leaves Trish. Sorry, before we do the spoiler,
then you have to
he leaves
escape
Trish.
the island. It starts falling apart. You have 5 minutes to get through the underworld, back to Mallet Island, and then out. Something we should have mentioned in the very beginning of the game. The game is when you're just walking around, there's an airplane, and so you need to make your way to that airplane because that's how you get out off the island.
Do you even see the airplane in the beginning of the game? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's in
that
like
at all.
the second room. It's just hanging out.
Oh yeah, you're right. And one of the other things we didn't even mention, one of their other ways of gatekeeping is that it's really simplistic gatekeeping, not necessarily skill gatekeeping. But you every now and then you come to a door that's blocked off with like this mysterious force, and it can actually hurt you. The hand will come out and hurt you.
Cool.
But if you have to kill all the enemies, and then that shatters the hand, and then you can go through. when I was watching this guy go through it, there's only 2 moments in the entire like escape sequence where you actually had to kill a certain number of enemies to get back through a door. So I actually thought, from what I saw, it was pretty fair.
Yeah,
it was overall pretty fair.
I was actually kind of dreading that part because I remembered it and got through it pretty easily. And then you get to the room with the plane, and as you're about to get onto the plane, the ground falls out from under you, and I guess you fall down to the basement. And then, like we alluded to, Mundus is back, and now he's a lot more like grotesque. He's got like a bunch of eyeballs, and you fight him a third and final time, but he's pretty easy. The reason why is because right before you fight him, Trish pops up. She's alive from demon magic love. Power of love.
Demon magic love.
And she kind of upgrades Dante. So like this is a constant in the series. Not every game does it, but often the final boss fight is meant for you to be overpowered. It's supposed to make you feel like a badass.
Other games do. Even Final Fantasy VII does this. If you ever did, you play Final 7? I forget.
Yeah, way back when it first came out. It's kind of fuzzy.
Now I watched when I was watching the long play of it. I saw that like they do this one. I admit it. I actually thought it was kind of cool. Like Dante kills Mundus with these. Like he takes his 2 pistols and he shoots them. And Trish has this kind of cool line. I forget. Do you remember what she says? She says like, and that's a wrap. And then Dante says, jackpot, which is kind of like his catchphrase. And then Dante says, give my regards to my son, because the whole time Mundus is going, I'll be back, I'll get you. But that whole dark soul with light, instantly negate it by the line, give my regards to my son, because Dante is cool. But and who's his son?
Line. Well, it's him just basically saying like, I don't give a crap, I beat you, like come try it again, bro, my son will kill you too. That like old argument, like my dad could beat up your dad? He basically said my son can beat up you.
He doesn't have a son, though.
Well, he's saying, like, in the future, because Mundus is going, I'm going to be back. It's a cool line. He's a cool guy.
It didn't make any sense. He doesn't have a son. He doesn't have a son that died, as far as I'm aware. Or at least, maybe he did. But
no, he doesn't have a son.
Then the line doesn't make any sense.
Well, actually, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Dante Juniors out there. Dante seems like the type of guy who maybe has a few.
He gets around.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he's so cool that obviously the ladies love him.
Yeah. So then there's an escape sequence.
Yeah.
Where you get on into the airplane and you fly out.
And
that's the final. Watching that, I thought that was bullshit too.
Yeah, thank God that sequence is short. I remember playing it when I was young. I died multiple times. It's so hard to steer that thing.
And you can't see. From watching the dude play, there's fire there's fire,
there's rocks, there's pillars.
Like there's maybe a solid 3/4 of the screen are covered by flames, and you only can see the center of it, and the other 3/4 around it are all blocked off by fire, and it's so hard to see anything coming. Yeah,
I won't lie. This time around, I hit almost everything. I had just upgraded my health enough where I made it through it. I just had enough health where I didn't die, even though I hit everything. It's a very sturdy plane.
And that ends Devil May Cry once you get out of there.
Yeah, and then it goes to that, Devil Never Cry.
And you find out Trish and Dante are now working together for the demon hunting service.
He's maybe dating his... one thing, we didn't mention, right before, way during the reveal that Trish is evil.
Well, we did talk about it a little bit.
I know, but when the reveal that Trish is evil, Mundus does actually talk about the fact that it's not a coincidence that he looks like his mom.
Mundus created her, right?
Mundus created Trish to look like his mom, to get in his head. I guess he figured, I can use this, I guess she's kind of like a succubus, to lure him to Mallet Island.
Yeah.
And then, so then, him and woman who he's maybe dating, who looks like his mom.
Exactly.
Not even just looks like his mom. She just essentially is, but with a different personality.
Well, it's not his mom, but it'd be like if a completely different woman took over his mom's body.
Yeah, and
but it's not technically
it's something
his mom's body.
That Devil May Cry 5 actually does really well. Is it really you get flashback cutscenes with his mom, and like they do a good job of making you see like they literally look exactly alike.
That's wild. That's so weird.
So yeah, and maybe he's not dating her. When I was young, I certainly got the impression that they were a couple afterwards. But yeah, so then game ends with they've rebranded to Devil Never Cry, and
it sounds like you're ready to cry just saying that.
Yeah, it that one hurt a little bit because Devil May Cry is a cooler name. I would
100%,
certainly never.
100%.
I would never call a business that's called Devil Never Cry.
It's pretty bad. So to kind of close out our conversation on Devil May Cry, what is your final impressions of the game? How do you think it holds up, especially because you just replayed it? Do you think it still holds up? I personally think it does and it doesn't. I actually think the gameplay holds up decently well, but the dodging controls I think are a little meh, and then obviously the camera angles are bad. So I think in terms of just overall the cameras and just some of the control stuff, I don't think it holds up, but I do think the gameplay is well paced enough, despite my issues with the difficulty, that it holds up overall. Yeah,
so going back into this game, when I first got this game, I was 11-ish, and I didn't have money to really buy games like that, so I played this game on every difficulty. I got as much time out of it as I could, and then I had it, I eventually got Devil May Cry 2 and 3. I got the 5-year anniversary pack, and that's when I played 2 and 3. But I basically didn't touch this game again once I got 2 and 3. So coming back to it all these years later, 10, 15 years later, I was a little weary. You had started replaying it for the episode before me. You were kind of mixed about it. You were pretty down on it. You came around, but you were pretty down on it pretty early on.
That's just because I was so bad at it.
And so I was pretty, nervous going into it. And honestly, even back when you asked me to do this episode, it's funny because I remember thinking, well, I love Devil May Cry, but is there really that much to talk about? I'd love to do something like God of War or Persona 4. And I think I'd even mentioned to you, offhand one day, oh, yeah, I'm a little worried about keeping a conversation with this game. And you had said, well, do you want to not do it? But I wanted to do it. I am definitely glad I did, because not only did I remember how much I love this game, but didn't you also say I was the only person who listed Devil May Cry?
Yeah, I was surprised. No one else listed it, and it's a pretty iconic series.
Yeah,
and an iconic, it started on the PS2, and it still remains one of the most iconic game franchises out there.
Yeah, and so, I'm glad you did ask me to do it, because I would argue then, plenty of people can talk to you about God of War. Only I could talk to you in this situation about Devil May Cry. I know I'm not the world's biggest Devil May Cry fan, but I'm the biggest Devil May Cry fan I know.
And out of the people I asked to be on all the episodes for the summer of PS2, apparently out of all of them as well.
Always loved this series. Playing this game when I was 11-ish honestly had a huge impact on me. Dante as a character, yes, he has his really cheesy lines, but his attitude and just too cool for school vibe, they kind of left a huge impression on me. I'm a pretty sarcastic guy, and honestly, that could maybe be because of things like it's not like he was the first character to ever do that, but it could be things like Dante maybe had an impression on me growing up.
He is a sarcastic, a lot of his dialogue to the enemies and even Trish is very sarcastic.
Yeah, I remember, replaying the game when you can just look at the different items. When you go into the bedroom where you do the mirror scene with Nilo and Angelo, there's a portrait, I guess, of the people who own the castle, and he talks about them, the couple, and then he mentions, he talks about the guy, and then he talks about the woman, and then it ends with ... cute. As in, you're in this creepy island, and you're just thinking about how cute the woman who's in the portrait is.
I do think, even though he's got a lot of cheesy moments, and a lot of this game is very dated in terms of its storytelling ideas, especially the way that Dante as a character reeks of early 2000s and late 90s. But with all that said, I still really like his character because he is, the fact that he's half human, half demon is already cool. I don't care who you are. That's a cool thing.
I agree.
He looks pretty cool. Actually, his design of wearing a red, his red jacket is because in Japanese culture, red is typically worn by heroes. So that's why his jacket is red. So he's designed to look like a hero, even from a Japanese cultural standpoint. And it's just like he's this half demon, half human who doesn't seem like he can be killed by anything. He doesn't act like anything can kill him. But what I like about him is that something could. It's that he does have fear. You can see it. You can tell. But he exudes so much confidence that you're just going to be able to make through it. I like that in a character. I think that what makes him a cool character to me is that he is vulnerable. Despite being a badass half demon, half human, but super powerful, more powerful than most demons, he's super badass and powerful, but he still has he's still vulnerable. And it's not that he has a vulnerable side. It's not like, an 80s hair metal band where they'll do like a super heavy song and then have a power ballad. It feels like he actually is a character where, I'm super cocky and I'm super badass, but at the same time, he gets scared. There's moments where he thinks he's going to die throughout the story.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes him a really compelling character.
Yeah, and honestly, later games, he only becomes better. Devil May Cry 3, Devil May Cry 2, kind of, it's a shame it's such a bad sequel because it kind of doubles down on the wrong parts of it. Like, there's even less story in that game. There's even less... Like Dante just kind of in that game feels like he doesn't care. It's pretty uninspired. The bosses and the designs are boring. But Devil May Cry 3 then doubles down on all the right things. Virtually everything about that game is better. Dante as a character, the storytelling, the gameplay, and so just back to what I was originally saying of replaying this game. I've loved this series since I played it, and I hadn't played this first game in so long, and so I'm very happy to see that. I still love this game.
And you went back and kind of rediscovered what you liked and didn't like about the game.
And honestly, I beat this game the other night and immediately started Devil May Cry 3.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really? That's funny.
And now I'm playing through that, and I'll probably jump right over to 4 or 5. 5 is really good. Funny thing, too, is they Dante as a character just becomes... they kind of just turned up to 11. Like, his character doesn't change that much. They just make him more ridiculous.
It's a very Fast and Furious-ish
almost. Yeah, it literally is.
We're both Fast and Furious fans as well.
Yes, that exact, absurd action, but playing it straight. And Devil May Cry 4 and 5 especially, does the perfect balance of Dante is so sincere about all of this stuff, but... and the game knows it's ridiculous, but nobody's out there saying... well, he's an idiot. Like, there's literally a point in Devil May Cry 5 where he gets a hat for a weapon and he just starts doing a Michael Jackson dance. And it's like beat for beat a perfect Michael Jackson dance. And then when he finishes, the characters are all like, oh, that was cool. Like, and it just worked. They just play it in the perfect way. And so I'm really happy to see that I still love this first game. It's not the best game. It's probably right in the middle. Most people would say 3 is the best. I would say 3 or 5. I'm replaying 3 now, so I'll kind of have my definitive idea of where the series ranks. But I would say that the original one, it's probably like the 4th best. I would say 3, 5, and Ninja Theory's game I all think are better. There are people who would crucify me for saying Ninja Theory's game is better, but it's a good game.
It's weird because I remember when that came out, a lot of everyone I worked at GameStop at the time, they all liked it a lot.
It's a cool game. Something you might appreciate in that game, Dante isn't half human. He's half demon, half angel. I think that's pretty cool. I think they call it a Niflheim. And that game, I honestly think people don't like that game mainly because they made Dante look emo. Like, emo Dante was a huge thing when that game came out.
Yeah.
But that game's got such a good attitude. It's got great level design and character design. And, it's not the best one, but it's definitely not the worst. It's not Devil May Cry 2.
Fair enough. I think that's a good place to leave off at then. So, that's our episode on Devil May Cry. So thank you all for listening. Cody, thank you for joining me. This was a really fun conversation. We got an hour and a half out of this, and I've enjoyed pretty much all of it.
Yeah, we have basically done half of the length of this game. There were probably people who could beat Devil May Cry in less time.
Oh yeah, there's speedrunners who's beaten game in less time than this.
This was really fun. I'm really glad that I was on. Like I said, I'm glad I did this episode because I got to rep Devil May Cry, and
someone's got to do it.
Yeah, and it's a great time to be a fan of the series. 5 just came out. It was the first game since 2013, and Devil May Cry 4 came out in 2008. So, back at the Game Awards, they won an award and said Devil May Cry is back. Devil May Cry 5 sold well. 6 will probably happen. The dude who did the Castlevania series on Netflix is doing a new Devil May Cry anime.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's an old anime. It's not bad. It's nothing special. It's good, but I'm excited for that. If you're thinking about playing Devil May Cry, this is the best time to play it because you can literally play every single one on current consoles.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps it up for this episode. As usual, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StillLoadingPod on all of them. If you want to contact me, you can also contact me at stillloadingcontact@gmail.com. You can also, if you want to support the show, please consider checking out the Patreon. Even just $1 a month will help me grow the show so I can do more things with it. That's patreon.com/stillloadingpod. Check out all the great members of the Podbeard Network. You can go to podbeardnetwork.com. Is there anything you want to plug, Cody? Any social media you would want to plug? I know you're not really on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that.
I'm on them. If people want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle's @WeAreCody. I'm not out there streaming or anything like that. I'll occasionally tweet things or retweet things about games and comics. I would love to eventually maybe even start a podcast of my own because this is a lot of fun to do. I talk a lot, so it's kind of right up my alley. But no, I mean, nobody needs to follow me. But thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you for joining me. And that should wrap it up. So thank you all once again for listening, and I will see you all next time.